All right, greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Beehive State, which is also known as Utah. And today's date is Wednesday, August 17th, 2016. Oh, yeah. Oh, looks like I'm going to be hitting the road again, cruising down to the east side. But it's going to do it on a timely basis. So won't be officially heading home. Maybe heading back down there just a slight. But still got to take care of a few things outside of that. But I'm excited. I have to admit, some good things about Utah, and there's some disappointments as well, just like life in general. Try to get a lot more, but that's just how it goes. But no bad blood whatsoever. And people I've worked with, I thank them dearly. You guys are awesome. I would say that for bottom of my heart. Got some beautiful people here as well. So it's like everything else, you got your pros and cons. But please tell the people in Salt Lake City to stop overdeveloping, because I see too many homes on these mountains which are altering the land, not conforming with it. Big much like it happen there anytime soon. They're gonna go, what happened to my home? It reminds me what I see along the coastlines of South Florida, building luxurious pigeonholes, destroying the sea oats and mangroves. Just waiting for that big storm surge to hit one day, and those $1.2 million or $2 million luxurious pigeonholes will be washed away. Go, oh my God, my beautiful Mercedes went floated out of my home, out of my luxurious condo. Boo hoo. That's what happens when you mess with Mother Nature. But yeah, it's just of course everyone talks about the whole thing was going on in Milwaukee County area. I think I talked about that yesterday, and everyone wants to point a finger and have solutions and have reform the police by federalizing it. All this wet dream rhetoric and so forth. And hey, look, I always believe in family unity. Okay, even though I'm a drifter and so forth. But family unity is essential. But you gotta stop getting involved in these governmental programs and propaganda matrices and so forth, and beware of the PSYOP syndrome, or Jim Jones syndrome, I would say. All out of respect, because they want to manipulate people and have us clash with each other, and so we can be ruled. Absolutely. That's like one of my little rants. And I just watched this old video down in Fort Lauderdale about some Channel 7 News. And I'll tell you one thing, some of these news people, they're just like, like total, like where they get their information from, watching Leave It to Beaver as their influence to be a news journalist or a reporter. Come on, man. And what happened was it was an archive video I've seen about what's going on, like in Fort Lauderdale, like what's his name, Vice Mayor or Commissioner I think Dan Trantillis wants to not allow assault weapons or semi-automatic weapons be sold at this gun show, which they had there for like the past 20, 30, 40 years. Talk about safety and all that. Well, with all due respect to that man, which I'm not saying he's always wrong, but in this particular area, he's going to try to tell you how to be a good businessman. Come on, more government knows best. And remember, if a lot of you folks heard my past episodes about Alma Mateen and all that, he was working as a security guard for G4S, and who has a contract with them? Homeland Security. Hallelujah, 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 yeah. That's right. That's how you always have to examine these things. You can look at my past archives. You can check that out about the Orlando mass shooting. I think I tried to get 2, 3 episodes on that. So just to make you guys think, hey, I'm ready to. If I'm gonna go down there, yeah, I'm gonna call them out on it in good faith. So it's a guy look really always see things the bigger picture. Of course, they always have the people that assume, oh, this guy's a sumptuous individual. Hey, we'll put him on. If they put someone like me on, they'll never put me on because he's too complex for us. We'll get the dumbass on the other end. That's how they want to do it. They want you to think, play kind, just sort of. It's the only way, and that's why? You have to remain vigilant. And remember, neo-mercantilism is dead or bad for the economy. Okay? Including merchandising. So, especially when it comes to these firearms. So it wasn't because of our freedoms. It was the bureaucracy and legislation. Because that place was what? A firearm-free zone thanks to the past Florida legislation. So, enough of that. I am digressing. All right. Well, I'm just like been scoping around here and just picked a good amount. I'm going to play a song as well from a good local band that's not around, but they still do a jam here and there. But first of all, got this from Michael Snyder. I always like reading this stuff. I don't know why. It's one of those things. I just need to be a little more, try to get a little more complex, but I'm just winging it along the way. This came from today. It goes, is Russia about to invade Ukraine? It's a big question mark. All right, and it says here, the world is coming, but unfortunately most Americans are completely oblivious to what is about to happen. In recent weeks, tens of thousands of Russian soldiers have been massing at 8 staging areas along Russia's border with Ukraine, and some Pentagon officials believe that this could represent preparation for a full-scale invasion. But ultimately, Russia has much bigger concerns than just Ukraine. At this point, the Russian people view the United States more negatively than they did even during the height of the Cold War, and their leading thinkers openly talk about inevitability of future conflict between the two superpowers. The Russians have been feverishly upgrading and modernizing their strategic nuclear forces in anticipation of that conflict, but unfortunately the U.S. military has not made similar strides under the Obama administration. As a result, the balance of power has shifted dramatically in favor of the Russians. Things have been relatively calm in Ukraine for a while, but that may change, about to change in a major way. According to Business Insider, Russian forces are encircling Ukraine from the north, east, and south. Something big may about to go down in Ukraine for Ukrainian soldiers that are stationed on the eastern border with Russia. However, things are already escalated to a conventional conflict. For example, in Shirokine on the Avzo Sea coast, east of the port of Mariupol, Ukrainian forces have reported being the target of over 200 rounds of mortars and artillery fire in the middle of the night from separatist forces. And in the conflict in Ukraine looks like it could be on the verge boiling over as Russian and Russian-backed forces are encircling Ukraine from the north, east, and south. Needless to say, these developments are deeply alarming U.S. officials. In fact, Bill Gertz of the Washington Free Beacon says the 40,000 Russian soldiers stand poised to launch a full-scale invasion at this moment. The Pentagon has identified 8 staging areas in Russia where large numbers of military forces to appear be preparing for an incursion into Ukraine, according to U.S. defense officials. As many as 40,000 Russian troops, including tanks, armored vehicles, and Air Force units, are now arrayed along Ukrainian eastern border with Russia. Additionally, large numbers of the Russian military forces will conduct exercises in the coming day that Pentagon officials could be used as a cover for an attack on Ukraine. On August 24th is Independence Day in Ukraine, and some analysts are pointing to that date, a time when a potential attack could occur. Hopefully that will not be the case, and we should remember that Russian President Vladimir Putin tends to do the unexpected. Just look at what happened in Crimea. He was enabled to annex the entire region without a shot hardly being fired. When it comes to geopolitics, way too often the Russians are playing chess while the Obama administration is playing checkers. As I mentioned in an opening paragraph, the Russians are very much preparing for the day where there will be a military showdown between the United States and Russia. For example, the newly developed Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile known as Satan II has the capability of destroying an entire region the size of Texas. Each missile has 12 independently targetable warheads, and essentially what that means is that one missile goes up and 12 nuclear warheads come down. It's weapons of exceedingly great power, and we have no way of stopping it. Russia is preparing to test a nuclear weapon which is so powerful it could reportedly destroy a whole country in seconds. The Satan II missile is rumored to be the most powerful ever designed, and is equipped with stealth technology to help it dodge enemy radar system. This terrifying doomsday weapon is likely to strike fear into the Western hearts of the Western military chiefs, as current missile defense technology is totally incapable of stopping it. But to me, what is even more frightening is the fleet of strategic nuclear submarines that Russians are putting together. From the following comes from a major news British news source. Vladimir Putin is assembling a secret fleet of super submarines which could topple NATO and plunge the world into war. A report by naval experts warns that Russia already has a small but sophisticated army of subs which are capable of launching missile strikes along the globe. These submarines can dive extremely deep and they are incredibly quiet. The advanced stealth capabilities what they possess make them enormously powerful weapons. Andrew Metrick, who co-wrote the report for the Center of Strategic and International Studies, said Russia operates a small number of very small nuclear-powered submarines that are capable of diving in excess of several thousand meters. You can imagine what a clandestine deployable deep submergence vehicle could be used for. Yes, it doesn't take much imagination to see what these ultra-quiet subs could be used for. Someday, a fleet of Russian nuclear submarines could come right up to our coastlines without us ever knowing that they were there. In the middle of the night, they could service, launch their missiles, and strategic tests would start being destroyed within just a couple of minutes. And if the U.S. was unable to muster much of a response, the Russian anti-ballistic missile systems are able to destroy just about anything they can throw at them. To say what the balance of power has shifted from the days of the Cold War could be a massive understatement. Meanwhile, the Russians have also been creating a cloak which can reportedly make units invisible to enemy radar. A Russian defense company has created a cloak which can say makes electronic objects invisible to enemy radar. Excuse me, I know I've been like repeating here. Sorry about that. The aim of the fiber technology, which is used in the cloak, is to make weapons invisible to prying eyes and detection systems. The St. Petersburg-based Rosa Electronics has come up with the invention and says it can make weapons that use thermal, infrared, and electromagnetic radar and targeting invincible. The main idea of the development is to create coverage that reduces radar visibility of the object both on the visible and microwave spectrums. Georgy Medovinnikov from Rose Electronics told Rupley, RT's video agency, Rosell Electronics believes the lightweight and flexible material can be used to protect armored vehicles, missile systems, and warplanes. According to its creator, the material is unique in its ability to absorb radio electronic signals and interfere with the distribution of electronic traces. Here in the United States, the Obama administration has had much different priorities as our strategic nuclear forces are hopelessly outdated. 60 Minutes has shown that our strategic nuclear forces are still using rotary phones and the kind of 8-inch floppy disk that you could literally flop around your hand that they were using back in the 1970s. And if you follow my writing regularly, you already know that I have written extensively about a future conflict with Russia, and there's a link for that too. You can look at it yourselves. At one time, the doctrine of mutually assured destruction applied, but at this point things have changed dramatically. The Russian military theorists have spent a lot of time studying how to fight and win a nuclear war, and they have the technology edge to potentially be able to do it. Sadly, these kinds of articles tend to get less attention than many of my other articles because people simply do not understand the threat we are facing. By the time they do, it will likely be way too late. So it is disturbing, and this is what happens. Okay, when you when you try to create an empire on a global stance and meddle with people's affairs. And what happened in Ukraine, even a while back, it's been proven that there's a claims that are proven that the CIA or some secret, criminal elements in the U.S. government, the Patsies, I call them, the Patsy Nation, put their president in as a puppet. And remember, like I talked about this in the past about Ukraine is considered the breadbasket of Europe as agriculture and oil right now. It's part of the grand chessboard on Eurasia about of controlling Eurasia. And if you read the Grand Chessboard by Zbigniew Brzezinski, those were one of the main countries of Eurasia. If you control Eurasia, you conquer the world. And look what's been happening. When you have the NATO bases getting close to the Russian border, they're not gonna sit there and just pick their noses. They're gonna say, hey, we gotta get ready. And of course, Crimea decided to annex with Russia, which Russia had always been I would say been battles in that area for like at least a half a century alone, if I'm correct. The Crimean War in the 1850s, I think it was, and it went back and forth and so on. And the matter is this: the people don't want to go to war. All right, they don't. But if you're gonna get close and meddle with people's affairs, it's gonna snap. It's gonna blow back. And we just hope everyone out there, from both sides, the brothers and sisters that are in the States, Russia, and the world, the people gotta say enough's enough. We don't want to see this happening. We don't want to see innocent lives be slaughtered. That's why I always tell people, I've been pretty damn consistent on this show. I despise an empire, period. If all you folks want to talk about, we gotta attack these countries, you know what? You get your asses on the front. Let's see how tough you are, including those boneheaded, bend over Bobbin and Jane politicians that said we gotta go to Russia. Let's see how tough they are. We'll throw their butts on the front line. They know who they are. We just gotta call these clowns out. No one wants to go to war on this. No one wants to. People are tired of these conflicts. People are seeing our brothers and sisters who are serving getting battle fatigue and getting traumatized and disorders, etc. You have to let everyone know. No one on this planet wants to see World War III. None whatsoever. And it's interesting because even Putin talked about Trump and Clinton Hillary. And he got to, he would like to, if Trump becomes president, he'd rather talk peaceful resolutions with him than with the warmonger Hillary Clinton, which that's on his view. But no one wants to see a conflagration because innocent people will be hurt. Many will suffer economically as well. I want to add a little video on there too by James Madison, by the 10th Amendment Center. Talk about James Madison on the whole thing with war and something to really got to look into. And you know what? I'll be back in a brief, so stay tuned. Okay, yeah, so I got that on there. I added that on there, which is entitled James Madison on the Dangers of War. He made his quote here too, goes, of all enemies to the public liberty, war is, perhaps, the most to be dreaded because it comprises the developments and the germ of every other. That's what James Madison has to say. But he, 10th Amendment Center is very good. And I'll just add that to it. No one wants to go to war. And even James Madison warned us about it. But those bend over Bobs in Washington don't. They're obtuse, okay? But so, next thing here came from Ukraine Today, and it came out. Yeah, it came out. It says here, came out today. It says here, Nazi gold train excavation start despite no evidence of its existence. It says here, a tunnel that is part of the Nazi underground complex on October 20th, 2015 in Walsburg, Poland. The treasure hunters hope to find ghost train full of looted gold, gems, artworks, and arms. Treasure hunters have begun digging at a site in southwestern Poland where they believe a Nazi train laden with stolen gems and arms is hidden, according to BBC reports. Though the experts say there is no evidence that the legendary train exists, the explorer led by Peter Koper from Poland and Andreas Ricker from Germany said ground penetrating radar results were very promising. There's a video on that to check it out. They think the train was hidden in a tunnel in 1945. The dig near the city of Wolfsburg may take up to 10 days. Since World War II, there have been rumors that the train is full of loot, guns disappear in the complex of tunnels as the Germans fled advancing Soviet forces. In December, the scientists from Kharkov, AGH University of Science and Technology says the geological survey of the site had found no evidence of the train, though they admitted there may be a tunnel. A spokesman treasure from the treasure for the treasure hunting team, Andres Gake, told a reporter on Tuesday, "We have to find a railway track, probably the entrance to a railway tunnel, and if the tunnel exists, there should be a train there." According to local folklore, the train went missing near Kazaz Castle, 3 kilometers from Walsbrick. Well, it's interesting. So it's like, Al Capone's treasure. We have to find out. People got to keep posted on this, see what's going on. It's very interesting. You never know. Let's see if they find something or not. But I can't really just go too ape over it, but it's a little bit entertaining. It's like, yeah, treasure hunt, right? The name of the TV game, TV show, Treasure Hunt. So, well, we never know, my friends. We'll probably find something, and people will manifest, and the government probably take it over, right? And before they have lawsuits in their heirs, oh, that's from stolen from my grandparents. Expect that too. All right, next one here came from it's a Lou Rockwell site. It's written by Joachim Hagelpan. It's about the Council of Foreign Relations, and actually the title for this is Council of Foreign Relations New PR Video Can't Undo Its New World Order One World Government Agenda. All right, and as it reads here, the New World Order propaganda rules and shapes the world, and there is no powerful propaganda that rules the shapes of the U.S. global hegemony, world events, and major geopolitical developments than the Council of Foreign Relations, or the CFR. That's the acronym. On its own website, the CFR describes itself as an independent, nonpartisan membership organization, think tank, and publisher. 2 weeks ago, the powerful organization celebrates its 95th anniversary since it's been the most influential force dictating U.S. foreign policy throughout 20th century, chauvinistically called the American century, right into the present 21st, aptly called the New World Order century. The CFR is financed by highly endowed tax-exempt Rockefeller, Ford, and Carnegie foundations. The Bilderberg and CFR's chosen member to become next presidential puppet, Hillary Clinton, made no bones about whom she takes from the NW orders from. Yes, the Aunt Jemimas or the Jezebelian harlot to the one world order, not more than Hillary Clinton. I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I've been often, I guess, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right down here from the street, from the State Department. We got a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have to go as far to be told what should we be doing and how we should think about the future. That is from Hillary Clinton, right? In 1950, the arrogant son of the Council of Foreign Relations founder, James Warburg, member James Warburg, one of the banksters that was responsible for creating the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, empathetically decreed to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, "We shall have world government whether you like it or whether or not you like it, by conquest or consent." That's called "I'm a Gino, and the world revolves around me," which means Jew or Judaic in name only, okay? Not be anti-Semitic at all. From its very outset, the CFR, as the U.S. elite's most public face, subversively promoting New World Order, has always maintained one explicit purpose: to bring about one world government. In 1975, powerful CFR insider and former judge advocate of the U.S. Navy Admiral Chester Ward wrote in his book entitled Kissinger on the Couch, and about the ultimate aim of the Council of Foreign Relations. The CFR has a goal: submergence of U.S. sovereignty and national independence into all-powerful one-world government. This lust to surrender the sovereignty and independence of the United States is persuasive throughout most of the membership. In the entire CFR lexicon, there is no term of revulsion carrying the meaning so deep as America First. Nearly all the top military generals who active members were my West Point roommates and admirals, and major corporate CEOs and numerous government leaders in all 3 branches have been circulating through the revolving turnstile in and out of the public sector as prominent Council of Foreign Relations members. They represent the shadowy government where secrecy rules from behind the scenes, and said it matters of public record that virtually every Secretary of Defense has been a CFR lifer since 1940. Every Secretary of State but one has been on the CFR and for or Trilateral Commission, and a majority of Secretaries of Treasury as well. Multiple CIA directors have been in the CFR for 8 decades. Nearly every key national security and foreign policy advisor are. Were members, of course. A significant number of U.S. presidents and VPs have been CFR members. Yeah, William Jefferson Clinton was the president of the Council of Foreign Relations. Just to give you an example. Regardless of what party happens to occupy the White House, an intransigent fixture operating at the highest echelons of power in Washington over the last century has been strategically assigned CFR plants. The CFR's interlocking marriage between the private corporate sector and the public government sector is largely responsible for today's lopsided world of harsh, gross disparities. So we can say fascism, my friend. Fascism. Not capitalism, but fascism. Get that through your heads. As case in point, the 62 richest people on Earth possess more wealth than the majority of the 7.3 billion humans currently inhabiting on the planet. The wealthiest 1% own more than the rest of the world combined, and the global inequality gap between the rich and poor is widened at the fastest rate since the 19th century. These alarming facts bear the result that the ruling elites own and controls all the Fortune 500 transitional corporations through backroom bribery, deals own and controls virtually every national government on Earth. Only 6 oligarchs own the 6 top mega media corporations, controlling the outflow of over 90% of the world's news and information through monopolizing a centralized banking system of debt-based theft and global enslavement, while imperialistically plundering the third world for its precious natural resources. Consolidation of power into fewer and fewer hands has eliminated competition in a closed, thoroughly insulated, anything but free, now stagnating global market. As an example, over the last 2 decades alone, the number of publicly traded companies listed on the U.S. Stock Exchange has been decimated from half from 7,300 to 3,700, with the globalists widening more power than ever before in human history. Their centuries-old, long sought after the scheme of one world government has never been closer at hand. That's the mean by which our planetary rulers plan to attain their longer prize agenda is through such Rockefeller, Rothschild created and funded entities as the United Nations and Council of Foreign Relations. Indeed, CFR members call themselves the Informal Agenda Group, drafted the UN proposal that FDR signed the next day, establishing the UN as a world governance precursor in 1945. So all you folks out there think FDR is great. Nope, he's an effing dumbass reject. Okay? That's what FDR stands for as far as I'm concerned. If you get offended, who the hell cares? That was then, but this is now. The elite's main ticket to deceptively achieve its diabolical endgame. One world governance involves killing off 90% of U.S. humans on Earth through a meticulously plotted perfect storm of controlled chaos, destabilization, and worldwide destruction through a huge arsenal of both soft and hardcore interventions that will allow the elite to entice obedience of remaining survivors under the ensured promise for their protection and security. In effect, the murdering execution at the same time will pretend to be the people's savior, while purging roughly 6.5 billion of us useless eating overcrowd under the deceitful cloak of big brotherly love. In a fork-tongued Orwellian doublespeak, the globalists will utilize carrot sticks of food and security to herd what's left of the desperate masses into pre-designated FEMA prison camps and controlled biocoastal stack-rise urban living zones per Agenda 21's eminent domain that confiscates private property, reserving a large, vast interior section of the country as a designated wilderness area. Yes, pay attention, my friends. They're doing this a lot in the local area. Like Fort Myers, Fort Lauderdale, a few places. There's examples. Proven above the point, at 1992 Bilderberg meeting, CFR guru Henry Kissinger says, "Today Americans will be outraged if UN troops enter Los Angeles. to restore order. Tomorrow they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told there was an outside threat from beyond, whether real or programmatic. I can't do Henry Kissinger's voice. Sorry about that. That are threatened of every existence. It's then that all people of the world will plead with us, with the world leaders, to deliver them from this evil. Individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of the well-being granted to them by the world government. Where the Olympics are being played in Rio now nearly a quarter century ago, 192 nations led by the most avid out of the closet New World Order President George N.W. Bush signed on a UN Agenda 21 mapping out Earth's sustainable dark future, whereas Agenda 21 focuses on the environment and new and improved formula. The 2030 Agenda rolled out last September, including 17 high-potent sustainable development goals, and all flowery Laurelian lingo sounding so utopian in sheep's clothing that, when put into brutal practice by predatorily, always spells dystopian madness and rigid authoritarian control. Just 1 year ahead of that fateful 1992 global UN conference in Rio, the elite had already latched onto propagandizing dogma spun from the notorious scientific think tank, the Club of Rome, to create a post-Cold War enemy of global warming as a juggernaut pretense leading to one world governance. In searching for the new enemy to unite us, we came to the idea that the population, the threat of global warming, water shortage, famine, and the like would fit the bill. All the dangers are caused by human intervention. The real enemy, then, is humanity itself. Perhaps the Hegelian dialect best conceptualizes the deep states, modus operandi is more clearly than any other analytical descriptive lens. The elite's been Kegely repeating this same successful historical cycle, first identifying a problem that may or may not even be real, then intentionally induces a real or imagined crisis as a reaction to that problem for the purpose of proposing a solution that designs to increase centralized totalitarian control. Both U.S. foreign and domestic policies have deployed this unbroken deceitful strategy that is also often Sorry about that. Often simultaneously utilizes a divide and conquer tactics to further weaken and neutralize any potential opposition. That's why pitting groups like Democrats versus Republican, liberal versus conservative, white versus black, Christian versus Muslim against each other works so well. Also, inventing derogatory labels designed to discredit and smear reputations like conspiracy theorists come in handy for the elite, the feds, and mainstream media as a statist ministry of propaganda. Assembling a diverse all-star cast of CFR members, the Council of Foreign Relations just released a self-serving infomercial video touting how significant and valuable its expertise role is in solving the complex challenges and problems facing humanity in the 21st century. And under 3.5 minutes, multiple sound bites delivered in rapid fire by strategically anointed elites hailing from various walks of life are seen pontificating pontificating the need for CFR architects to masterfully craft such sound U.S. foreign policy recommendations that promote peace, prosperity, and a new world order wisdom. In order of appearance are CFR President Richard Haas, CNN National Security Analyst Juliette Kayyem, former Treasury Secretary and CFR co-chair Robert Rubin, ABC News anchor Juju Chang, Global Head of Impact Investing at Goldman Sachs Dina Habel-Powell, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, award-winning actress Angelina Jolie, the world's largest book publisher Random House CEO John Meacham, Interfaith Center of New York Reverend Chloe Breyer, Park Avenue Synagogue Rabbi Elite Cosgrove, HBO CEO Richard Peller, President of Jigsaw, formerly of Google Ideas Jared Cohen, actor-producer Caitlin Modi, Time Magazine Assistant Managing Editor Rana Farah, CNN GPS host Fareed Zakira, and Yahoo News anchor Bayena Gologia. I think that's why I don't really watch these clowns because they're so pathetic and they make you think you're so damn dumb. All right, and a team of 16 dynamos are perfectly divided evenly along every demographic from gender to racial ethnicity to represent to represent the industry to religion. This over-the-top feel-good commercial shadowcasting the elite is obviously designed to make us feel safer, trusting their benevolent wisdom and neatly fine-tuned grooming of elitism as its perfect public face best, expounding propaganda that reassures us lowly, you uninformed regular folks that the world every skilled, capable hands with such intelligence, gifted and well-spoken movers and shakers when these elitists are in control at the helm, solving all the world's biggest problems and most pressing issues. The same of represented powerhouse industries showcased in the video underscores the CFR's sheer, far-reaching tentacles of elitist dominance and power. The PR video attempts to pass the CFR off as a banging humanitarian group out to both enlighten and save the world. Its featured CFR cheerleaders claim the organization is unbiased, having no political ideology nor any agenda, which is, again, total bullshit. That's what they said. As ever since 1921, its action speaks louder than their favorably biased words. The fact is that the Council of Foreign Relations has been controlling U.S. foreign policy for almost a century, and chief among its most obvious agendas have been building and maintaining U.S. empire's global unipolar hegemony and military strength at all costs. This refusal to share power with Russia and China in the bipolar world has humanity today teetering on the brink of World War III and self-annihilation. History has also proven that the CFR has long carried an aggressive war agenda responsible for virtually unending U.S. military conflict. As the most warring nation on Earth, 93% of its time existence, America's have been at war killing fellow humans somewhere on the planet. A Gallup poll several years later showed that the rest of the world views as the U.S. greatest threat to world peace, in no small measure due to CFR's role shaping foreign policy. Of course, part and parcel of this war agenda is the unprecedented buildup of the arms industry and the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower gravely warned us against in vain, largely due to CFR's misguided influence. Enormous defense contractors gifted giants like Lockheed, Raytheon, Boeing, and General Electric have been direct fat cat beneficiaries of the CFR war agenda, making trillions in profits over the years, thanks to a mutually self-serving Council for Relations. And finally, the most glaring and subversively treasonous agenda of that the Council of Foreign Relations has consistently maintained for near an entire century, is destruction of the United States as an independent sovereign nation. The CFR has always envisioned, has been working persistently towards a totalitarian one-world government. Like so much corporate-sponsored advertising, the CFR ad features powerful liars, once again promising one thing, then they're betraying their promise by doing another. They clearly state that the CFR has no agenda, yet the historical facts prove that the Council of Foreign Relations has always maintained the New World Order agenda of one world government. As a truth seeker, I found the video a nauseating spectacle, depicting card-carrying members shamelessly masturbating over their own self-importance as grotesquely obscene and repugnant to anyone half aware of the global mayhem, death, and destruction that the Council of Foreign Relations has perpetrated on the world as a prime driver behind a century of U.S. empire aggression, killing up to 30 million people since World War II. The elitist propaganda machine is obviously working overtime, engaged in a thinly veiled political ad campaign, a sleek, glossy facelift designed to upgrade his Mr. Burns, David Rockefeller, crotchety old white men rule the world image by appeasing and trying to win over the wild up American public ready to turn on its elite masters. After all, this year U.S. citizens are fast realizing that everything we've been taught to believe in appears to be just twisted crock of shit, and that in reality a full-blown anarchy has been masquerading as propped up fake democracy and over Ruth's misnomer From the red, white, and blue days, that's long gone. Americans are just now starting to realize, as the glorious U.S. history taught in our whitewashed school books has methodically brainwashed multiple generations into wrongly believing Americans has always been God's gift to savior to humanity and the rest of the world. To tell that to darker skinned peoples around the globe who've been bombed, raped, and murdered, starting on U.S. soil with the Native Americans and kidnapped African slaves and their decadence. We can say the Irish too, so just to give you guys an example. The public is now finally coming to terms with recognizing that the system's been rigged against them for a long time. With Hillary's criminal exposure, presidential elections are blatantly rigged. The two-tiered tiered justice system is horrendously in our face, rigged. The stock market's rigged, gold prices are rigged. The dumbed down education system that extends even higher to higher learning is rigged, having turned generations over of college grads into lifetime indentured servants now unemployed or working minimum wage jobs. While college grads' wages increased only 1.6% in the last quarter century, the student debt burden has skyrocketed 163.8%. The U.S. meritocracy, work ethic that preaches working hard all your life eventually pays off is rigged because the entire Ponzi scheme economy's been rigged ever since the 1913 Federal Reserve Act, placing privatized central banksters in charge of the nation's money supply, manufacturing fiat out of thin air while changing interest off invisible reserves that don't even exist, has given the elite unlimited power to infiltrate and hijack our government through organizations like the Federal Reserve and CFR that have systematically degenerate our once vibrant democratic republic into a fascist totalitarian police state on the urge of utter collapse. The fact is that in this highly polarized, explosive culture of growing violence, fear, hate, distrust, ignorance, xenophobic, scapegoating, one angry, politically incorrect, racist, narcissistic, white billionaire showman promising delusions of grandeur to bring back America's long lost greatness is upsetting the elite's apple cart, threatening to throw a monkey wrench into the status quo of their rigged power structure. This unpredictable, recklessly volatile, dynamic currently gripping America has divided the populace, more agitated, unstable, and angry over facing the cold hard reality that the nation so many of us grew up loving has been thoroughly fleeced and destroyed by the treasonous Clinton, Bush, Obama international crime cabal that governs the world, employs the same bloody lawless thuggery as organized crime. Their ruthlessly violent, demonically motivated tactics are one and the same. Only the ruling elite and their political and corporate puppets have historically enjoyed a deceptive, undeserved legitimacy not afforded the mafia. Despite what the CFR infomercial claims, history explicitly exposes the Council of Foreign Relations' relentless real agenda of one world governance that from the behind the scenes is already informally operating on how its promotion of global warming, global scarcity, global population, overpopulation, global terrorism, global refugee crisis, global war, and global economic collapse all have been covertly contrived, manipulated, and engineered by the ruling elite. In other words, it's been done by design. The elites not so secret, the final objective to finalize a cashless RFID microchip society comprised to a mere half to 1 billion humans left living on Earth under absolute tyranny and control of the entrenched one world government and the one world religion that at every chance Pope Francis is constantly pushing, no matter how sugar-coated or saccharine a feeble CFR attempt at image enhancement to convince a forsaken American citizenry to trust its executioners of sheep's clothing will not change the sobering reality. As the war machine maker, the Council of Foreign Relations should remain an enemy to every citizen in the world who values and desires peace and freedom. Fantastic. By Joachim Hagelpine. I cannot say that better. And absolutely, person's absolutely correct, and it is flawless. I have to, like say, I boldly admit I've been following this stuff for at least good over 20, 25 plus years, maybe a little bit more, but learned along the way. And this is why when I see what's going on with these mass shootings, killing of the police and mass shootings, police shootings, been getting shot at, and vice versa, that is part of their game of organized chaos. They want us killing each other off so they can rule the remnants that are alive. This is absolutely disgusting. And this is people have to understand if you've been hearing my show, I've been pretty damn consistent at this. However, if I make a mistake, I'll be the first one to admit it. But the Council of Foreign Relations don't give two craps for any of us. Doesn't matter who you look like, who you're seeing, who you're laying, what your gender is, what your personal creed, etc. They don't give a damn about you. So you better start thinking. And don't be surprised if they're behind ISIS. Okay? Don't be surprised. They may be part of it. And these other big movements you see, they're all, and the Communist Revolution and all that, don't be surprised. All right? That's why I always defy the one world order, and I'm very damn proud of it. I've been, even before I did doing my podcast, since 9/11, I fully accelerated on this information war. Yes, I am part of it. I am an instigator. You can call me a crackpot. It doesn't bother me one bit because I get inspired. Then later on, when people realize I was right, many of them come to and talk and apologize, they repent, which is fine. I'm not I'm not gonna say I told you so, but I'm glad he's seen it. This is why, my friends, you have to resist this by all cost. They believe we need them, but when you start learning to be self-reliant and network with others, because we're not saying we're not all farmers and so forth, or creators or makers or manufacturers or maintenance folks, but we all have great strengths and flaws, and we can all work together and network. Like we can't do this, that person can do it, and vice versa. They don't want that. They want us going, help us government, help us CFR, help us one world order. The world of underdog. That is their vision. But I'll tell you one thing, they won't prevail. One way or the other, it's not going to be successful. They make you want to believe they will. They're gonna prevail, but it will fall on their faces when least expected. I'm gonna stop talking about that. And next one here from RealChange.org says here Native American protesters halt construction on Dakota Access Pipeline. This is by Danny F. Quest from Morton County. Work stopped Tuesday at a site where hundreds of Standing Rock Sioux tribal members and supporters are protesting construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline near the reservation boundary. The work stoppage gave law enforcement, tribal, and state officials time to plan how to manage the protest, with numbers swelling by the hours as Bussa the Sioux and others arriving to join the anti-pipeline movement. Arrests are occurring almost daily. Workers were instructed to leave their equipment late Monday after youthful protesters walk onto the work site and surround the machinery. Morton County Sheriff Kyle Kermeyer said the mix of people around the machinery caused him to stop work until an approved plan of safety could be developed. Kirkmeyer said he didn't know whether work would resume because some options were still in flux Tuesday evening. One option was the private landowner to allow his fence to be moved back into his property to give protesters more room to assemble off the highway. Kirkmeyer met with the Standing Rock Sioux officials in the morning and with state officials at the governor's office Tuesday afternoon before returning to the department headquarters to a brief patrol on how and when work will continue. Basically, what we talked about at the meeting was how to de-escalate tensions between the pipeline workers and protesters and us, I guess. One option is give them more land and more comfort, rooms for tents, borders, and a dumpster. That kind of thing, the sheriff said. Ideally, there would be an ample room to move hundreds of cars, pickups, and enforcement vehicles off the roadway too, he said. About 28 people have been arrested since last week, including tribal chairman Dave Archambault and charged with disorderly conduct for trying to block access to the work site. Tribal members are protesting the pipeline's crossing of the Missouri River near the reservation boundary for fear it will rupture and contaminate the water downstream and disrupt sacred historic sites. The sheriff confirmed that a federal court judge, at the request of Topeka Access Pipeline, sent a restraining order against previously arrested protesters from returning to the pipeline location. In a situation of historical irony, after a work shutdown, law enforcement pulled back from the protest site on Highway 1806 to a communication command center at Fort Lincoln State Park. The park preserved the fort, which the cavalry and Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer left to return after a fatal battle against Sioux. A replica of Custer's captured flag was flying among others, representing some of the 25 to 30 estimate tribes that have arrived to support Standing Rock since the protest started last week. Another reason to pull back toward Madison was to get into range of reliable cell phone service. Many at the protest scene believe cell towers are being purposely jammed to prevent communication, but North Dakota Highway Patrol Captain Eric Peterson said there is no truth to the rumor. With the growing numbers of protesters, now at least 500 to 600, a protest camp was established late Monday on low land just south of the Cannonball River, and tents, buses, and teepees were scattered around the central kitchen and check-in tent. An original Spirit camp was set months ago in protest. Cheyenne River Sioux Tribal Chairman Harold Frazier arrived with several busloads of his tribal members on Tuesday afternoon and said it is the biggest such gathering of native tribes that he can recall, with representatives from tribes coast to coast in Canada. Things are going well with the construction stop. I think it should stay stopped. That the court settled it, Frazier said. I believe we will stop it. Frazier said he and Archibald were cooperating to ensure there is adequate food and shelter for everyone arriving to support Standing Rock. Dakota Access did not return calls and emails seeking comment on the work stoppage. Back at the protest site, closest to where the pipeline is being staged for boring under Missouri River, the scene was relatively quiet and peaceful through the day. One of the Sioux most holy men, Orville-looking horse, the 19th successive keeper of the sacred white buffalo calf pipe, led hundreds in prayer at the gated entrance to the pipeline route. The prayers, burning sage, and sounds of drumming were intended to restore a protest based on prayer and peaceful objection, amid worries that not everyone can be controlled in such a large, fast-moving situation, and arrests continued to mount. Men, women, and children sang the old language and turned as one to the four corners of the universe. Cameras were forbidden during the ceremony, which is understandable. The tribal member and former councilman Tim Mentz said the prayers were at the request of Archambault. The chairman asked to go back to the prayer to ask for peace and safety, and that we can accomplish where we're here to do. Mentz said it's, for one thing, the safety of everyone. We're all praying for the same thing. After prayers, the access gates were propped open, and the protesters walked to the construction site on private land down the Missouri River, a hot walk in nearly 85-degree temperatures. Many walked, some rode horses, others rode in back of pickups, intent on making contact with the water half-mile away. All right, that's very good. So it's very interesting, and it's good to see this happening. I know some people have different views on this whole pipeline, but like I said, it's altering the land rather than conforming with it. And it's nice to see people from all walks of life even united with the brothers and sisters, Native American brothers and sisters on this. And of course, if it's near their territory and so forth, and hey, something's gonna give, and I would like to see this done peacefully, honorably. We don't really need a pipeline in good faith. You have to bring trucks in, so be it. You don't really need to create one pipeline. And I got people from other sides that tell me the story who was in there, and I respect it. I'm not going to condemn them. But the whole thing is a lot of questions, and they're concerned about the safety, not just for the Native Americans, but for everyone that lives in that area. because hey, it's all part of Mother Nature, I would say. So give these guys a homage, okay? If you go out there, give them that love. The tribal members and the supporters, thank you for standing for what's right. All right, next one here came from the Washington Post, and Washington Post, yeah, it was this yeah, it's from the Washington Post. All right, what the heck? It says here, father utterly terrified after a trooper points gun at his 7-year-old during traffic stop. This by Amy B. Yang. Kenneth Wilson and his 7-year-old daughter were driving to the Grand Canyon when they pulled over by a Arizona State Trooper. Here's what happened next. Kenneth Walton and his 7-year-old daughter were driving to the Grand Canyon when they were pulled over by a state trooper. Oops, it says it again like 2 or 3 times. Wow, hold on, let me just go here. All right, now it says now this is better. At first, Kenneth Walton thought the Arizona state trooper following him, and his 7-year-old daughter wanted to warn him of a broken taillight. They were in a rental car on a stretch Interstate 40 between Las Vegas and Flagstaff, Arizona, on what supposed to be a fun Grand Canyon vacation. It was dark, and Walton knew he hadn't been speeding, so not thinking much of it, he pulled over an off-ramp, rolled down on the driver's side window, and waited. That's when things went terribly airy, according to San Francisco's man's account of what happened last Thursday. Tonight, I was arrested at gunpoint by Arizona Highway Patrol officer who threatened to shoot me in the back twice in front of my 7-year-old daughter. Walton wrote on Facebook hours after the incident. For a moment, I was certain he was going to kill me for no reason. I am alive and I need to share the story. His post, published early Friday morning and updated throughout the weekend, went viral, serving as lightning rod for discussions about what happened to appropriate interactions with law enforcement. The Arizona Department of Public Safety confirmed that the traffic stop took place but disputed the tone and some of the details in Walton's Facebook post, called it inflammatory and irresponsible. The department is standing by the trooper's actions, including his threat to shoot Walton during a traffic stop, said Captain Damon Cecil of the Arizona Department of Public Safety. We sympathize with them. I don't think there's any law enforcement official who would ask not to be as angry, just fearful and terrorized. If they were in a similar situation, officer had guns pointed out. Cecil told the Washington Post it is a scary situation, but in the light of that is the positive story. This is a prime example of how things should be done. According to DPS, the traffic stop occurred around 7:43 p.m. on August 11th after the license plate on Walton's rental car came up as stolen. Interesting there. But I will continue on here. The trooper requested backup and followed the rental car to Interstate 40 until they exited the highway. The trooper then approached the car with his guns drawn. Actions the department said are appropriate for anything considered a higher-risk traffic stop when serious crimes or hazard conditions may exist. Initially, the driver, identified as Kenneth Wilson, was not responding to officer's command while seated in his vehicle, so the trooper moved to the passenger side of the window and got the occupant's attention by tapping on the window with his hands, DPS said in a short statement. It was at this time the trooper realized there was a child in the car as she sat up into the view. Mr. Walton was ordered out of his car and detained in handcuffs while the trooper conducted his investigation. The trooper, identified as Alton Villegas, has been with DPS since 2009. The department said Villegas has not had major disciplinary actions. In 2013, he was named along with several other officers in a civil rights lawsuit that was settled and dismissed without prejudice, Cecil said. According to Walton, however, the department account is inaccurate. He said the first command came when the troop tapped on the front of the passenger window, gun in hand, not before. In addition, Walton said his daughter was sitting in the booster seat in the rear passenger side of the vehicle, not in front, and was in the view, not crouched or reclined the entire time. Walton said the DPS statement omitted or downplayed details about the incident unfolded, including how the trooper referred to Walton as an officer interacted with his young daughter. In his paragraphs-long Facebook post, Walton recounted trying to stay calm while a trooper reportedly escalated the situation. Suddenly, the officer rapped on the rear passenger side window with his pistol. My daughter, who was sitting inches from the barrel of his gun, jumped with fear as the officer yelled at me to roll down the front passenger window. his service weapon pointed directly at me. I knew something terrible, Ari, and try to remain calm. I try to remain calm, keeping my hands visible, and slowly fumble for the window controls of an unfamiliar car. My daughter rolled down her window and explained that we were in a rental car, that we had no weapons, and I was having trouble figuring out how to roll down the front passenger window from my driver's side door. The officer didn't listen and kept yelling louder and more insistently, ordering me to comply with his request as he leered at me down the barrel of his pistol. My daughter panicked and tried to get out of her booster seat. She reached forward to roll down the front window, and the officer screamed at her not to move as he pointed the pistol at her. Walton said he was somehow able to roll the passenger window down, at which the point trooper ordered him to exit the car with his hands up. As he did so, trooper said that Walton said the trooper came over to the driver's side of the car and screamed at him to face the other direction. Then, as I had my hands in the air, he yelled at the top of his lungs in his voice I will never forget as my daughter looked in terror. Get your hands away from your waist or I'll blow 2 holes through the back of your back right now. My hands were high in the air as he said this, and I was not in any reaching from my waist. I was utterly terrified. I've heard stories of police yelling out false things like this before. They unjustifiably attack someone as a way to justify the attack, and I thought this was happening to me. I braced for bullets to hit me, and I could think that of was my daughter having to watch it happen after being left alone on the side of the highway with an insane, violent cop. Walton said he got down to his knees and backed gradually toward the trooper, following every order as slowly and deliberately as possible. He was handcuffed and placed in the back of the trooper's car. While more law enforcement officers While more law enforcement arrived soon afterward, his daughter remained in the rental car, frightened and still strapped into a booster seat, he said. Cecil said it was appropriate for Villegas to have escalated the traffic stop given the circumstances. The DPS patrol vehicle, our trooper had set a fax in front of him and responded that he was trained the way that was safest for him and his public. Cecil said, putting yourself in the trooper's position, he's giving commands, he's yelling, he's not getting a response. Should de-escalate the yelling, or should he escalate? You weren't there, and I wasn't there. Cecil confirmed that Villegas pointed a gun at a 7-year-old, but did so unintentionally, that he threatened to shoot Walton because he received a threat. We're not disputing that our trooper said those things, Cecil said. He absolutely did. Walton initially said on Facebook that dashboard camera footage would bear out his account of the traffic stop because he was under impression of all Arizona law enforcement officers had dashboard or body cameras. DPS told the Post that there is no dashboard or body camera footage available from the incident, nor is the agency aware of any amateur video taken at the scene. Only audio from the trooper's vehicle before he walked to Walton's car after he returned with Walton into custody. According to DPS, the investigation ultimately found the rental car company had not replaced the license plate when the front plates was reported stolen, which is the way had been flagged in the system. To complicate matters, Fox Rent-A-Car said the license plate number in question should have been placed in the stolen plates database in the first place, which that's correct. The rental car, a 2015 Nissan Altima, was registered to Arizona, which only states rear plates, license plates, according to Fox Rent-A-Car Chief Operating Officer Sean Buskey. Last November, the car was reported stolen in California. Buskey said 5 days later, the Oakland Police Department recovered the vehicle along with this one and only rear license plate and cleared it to the return to the rental fleet, he said. Oakland Police Department must have been unaware that Arizona does not issue front license plates when they issued their stolen plate report, Buskey told the Post. However, we are surprised that the Arizona Department of Public Safety would suggest that Fox is somehow responsible for replacing a front plate that never existed. Regardless of Walton and his daughters were released the night without citation. Fortunately, the subject in this case was compliant with the trooper and the situation ended peacefully with no one being harmed, Flagstaff District Commander Captain Ezekiel Zegsker said in the statement. Walton disagreed, saying the trooper's aggressive arrest had left both them physically unharmed but emotionally shaken. In the process of scarring me, he basically traumatized my daughter, Walton told the Post. That's sad because we've taught her that a police officer is who you go to, that's who you always trust. Okay, that's something we would still like to instill in her, but I don't know how we do that now. In his Facebook page, Walton said he believed the traffic stop might have ended differently if he had not been scrawning a 48-year-old white guy wearing a Mickey Mouse t-shirt, cargo shorts, and hiking boots as what he was at the time. If you are a person who is overlooked skeptically as a claim of Black Lives Matter or others who talk about police violence, I urge you to consider what happened to me and put yourselves in the shoes of others. I survived a bizarre gunpoint situation in which I was innocent as Fernando Castile, who was not as lucky as I was. We live in a society where anywhere and everyone can have a gun at any time, and police are responding with fear in dangerous ways. I got lucky tonight. My daughter and I made it to the Grand Canyon. I'm trying to try to salvage what's left of our vacation. Many others, because of the color of their skin or the way they look, or because of simple bad luck, did not meet the same fate. Well, DPS took umbrage to the Post, in a particular insinuation that race played a part, Cecil said. Walton has an opportunity as a parent to use this as a learning experience, a teachable moment for his daughter, valuable lesson about the community and interaction with law enforcement, Cecil says, but instead he chose to make it a negative and very irresponsible way. Walton said he had no intention of inciting anyone, he said, or of being a representative of any movement. It was the first time in my life when I had been approached by an officer with a presumption of guilt, and I guess I got a taste of for what it's like, Walton told the Post. I had a realization as a middle-aged white male for what it may be like out there. If this sort of aggression people face out there, I can understand why there are problems. Reached by phone on Tuesday while he was on his way back from vacation, Walton said he was still shaken but considering taking his Facebook post down because of all the attention he had received. Some commenters were sympathetic while others attacked his credibility, calling out his involvement in a 1999 eBay art forgery scandal, something Walton said he has never tried to hide. I cooperated with authorities, plead guilty, served 9 months of probation, and took responsibility for my actions, he wrote in an update Facebook page over the weekend. I make no excuses for it. If you think that has everything to do with this, there's nothing I can do to change your mind. About this latest incident comes following nationwide unrest after deadly shootings by police officers in Milwaukee, Falcon Heights, Minnesota, and Baton Rouge that resulted in fatal encounters. So far, more than 250 people have been shot and killed by police officers in the first 3 months of 2016, according to the Washington Post database of police shootings. Walt and his daughter eventually made their way the next day to the Grand Canyon for the first time for both of them and tried a vein to shake what had occurred on the highway. I feel pretty distracted over the next couple of days at the Grand Canyon, thinking about what had happened, Walton told the Post. Things will get back normal eventually. Cecil said DPS has not received a formal complaint from Walton. The department, he added, has not been in direct contact with Walton since the traffic stop. Absolutely not, Cecil said. This is not a situation where we feel we need to reach out to him. He's the one who started his negative relationship and negative communication. Well, it's everyone's gonna react in a different way. But sometimes too, like taggers like report stolen, like the vehicle, that's been a mistake on the rental cars park. 'Cause I remember I got pulled over because I had a rental car. One time I got pulled over and the plate didn't match the vehicle. They just swapped it. What a bunch of bastards, right? But fortunately, I had all the paperwork, I had my merits to back it up, and they just let me go. I just get blown away at times. So something like that you have to look at, you have to observe. And Kenneth Wilson, hey man, remember, police are human beings too. I'm critical a lot on their actions. I'm very critical of about how they're being trained more aggressively and so forth. No, I'm not gonna hold that back. But something you gotta really look at, and he just got a little taste of entrapment, I would say. He had without any knowledge. And so, hey, if you're gonna put something like that on social media and so forth, it better have merit. That's the one thing for sure. I don't know how I haven't read it, so I can't make any judgment. And Walton did make a mistake in the past. He took responsibility for actions, which is great. But there's a learning experience, and I recommend him reading that book, Arrest Proof Yourself by Dale Carson. Just look it up, folks. I know I said it a few times. I post in my past episodes, but look it up. Go to the bookstore, read it. You won't be disappointed. All right. Next one here is from antiwar.com. And if I'm correct, by Jason Ditz. This is here for second day. Russia launches airstrikes against ISIS from Iran base. For the second consecutive day, Russian Su-34 fighter bombers flew out from the Hamman air base in Iran and attacked ISIS targets in northeastern Syria. Yesterday's strikes marked the first time Russia had flown any planes in operation from a base other than that base inside Russia and Syria. Russian Defense Ministry claimed today's strike had destroyed 2 ISIS command posts and killed over 150 ISIS fighters. There is no way to confirm these figures, though, with this war, as the war with the U.S. air war against, though as with the U.S. air war against ISIS, the figure tend to be inflated. Iran's National Security Council said the decision to let Russia share the Hamdan air base was a strategic one, and that it was increasing the cooperation against ISIS forces inside Syria. It's the first time Iran had allowed another country to use its territory for military operations since the 1979 revolution. The move allows Russia considerable savings in fuel and increased utility, as planes coming out of Hamdan were too large to operate out of Russia's small airfields inside Syria and would have had to deploy from inside Russia previously a much further trip. Well. So even looks like Iran is telling that ISIS has to go. So something very intriguing here, my friends. And things are going to be escalating. That's why we have to really look at this about ISIS, part of the One World Order, right? Yeah. But you'd be surprised what things happen and how to communicate with other countries and get along with them in alignment. Well, I'm gonna stop from there. And finally, from mintprintnews.com. It came out today, if I'm correct. Yeah, it did. Why not? And that is from Blacklisted News originally. Yep, they'll go and check them out. This one's here. Israel, Pakistan to join Red Flag War Games in Nevada. Hey, this week, Red Flag military exercises are part of military's attempt to shift its focus to prepare for potential war against adversaries with advanced weapons. Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada. International war games being fought this week in Nevada desert suggests the U.S. military is preparing for a new large-scale warfare against powerful enemies. This year marks the 41st year of the Red Flag military exercise, which are considering the most important training exercises carried out in the United States. A grab bag of international troops are also invited to participate in the Air Force Drill, including Israel, United Arab Emirates, and Pakistan, according to the August 3rd report from the Times of Israel. The report, which cites unnamed U.S. and Israeli military officials in an amateur aviation blog and as its sources, emphasizes that U.S. forces remain in charge of the drills, with other countries treated as guests, but it also suggests the exercises can be interpreted as a sign of strengthening ties between countries' troops in an increasingly volatile world. International exercises are not just military, but strategic in nature. The Times quoted an unnamed officer in the Israeli Air Force is quoted as saying, multi-stage exercises, the last of which will conclude on August 26th at Nevada's Nellis Air Force Base, suggests that U.S. military is not only training for more high-tech warfare, it's also boosting preparations for large-scale combat on new fronts, according to a report from the Washington Post. The U.S. military is shifting focus to prepare for potential wars against adversaries with advanced weapons. Dan Lamoth, A national security reporter for the Post wrote on August 9th. The transition to so-called multi-domain operations calls for the Pentagon to prepare not only for wars on land, air, and sea, but for newer forms of warfare that incorporate both space and cyberspace, he added. Lomos reported that this year's War Flag exercise have already featured simulated cyber attacks to allow U.S. forces to enter enemy airspace undetected and included the participation of the 527th Space Aggressor Squadron, which was created to train U.S. forces for combat with adversaries capable of using space by using both global positioning systems, GPS satellites, and satellite jamming techniques. While recent wars have been largely small-scale combat with technologically inferior military forces, this year's war flag with this emphasis on a potential large-scale combat that expands to include space warfare should have been part of a built ship in global tensions between the U.S. and the other powerful nations. Recent years have brought rapidly increasing tensions with China and Russia, thanks in part of the U.S. and NATO forces devoting decades to encircling both nations with military bases, while the West has simultaneously supported unrest in Syria, Libya, and elsewhere in the Middle East that further inflamed for the potential for war conflict. In November, Manar Mazwa, Mint Press News founder and host of Behind the Headline, interviewed geopolitical analyst Eric Drastier, who warned that this new Cold War could easily erupt into a new world war. We're seeing a series of what could be proxy conflicts when the United States is doing, where it can undermine Russian political and economic development, try to undermine Russia's growing ties with Europe. Draster said, adding this is especially evident in military expression in the Ukraine. He further noted that the U.S. is similarly fanning the flames of conflict with China over disputes in the South China Sea. History has shown the trajectory of the world's events is leaning toward some kind of global conflict, Draster warned. And there you can watch the video, Are We Careening Toward World War III? You can watch it yourself. And it is insane, I would say, about this. So it's totally insane. And you got to hope and pray that World War III won't happen on our watch. With these war games and so forth, it looks like that's right in the desert, so they could actually fight in those regions. So, folks, like I said, we can't let this happen by any means. All right, so that is really it, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to this episode. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, whether it's good or bad, or you want to send me information I can find interesting, whatever you do, please correspond with Decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedom's Network, or Scene.life. Or if you want to hit me, if you want to email me, you could get me at LokiLuck3, which is the number 3, LokiLuck3 altogether, at gmail.com. All right, well, I decided to do a song. And it's from a metal band, friends of mine. They're not around anymore. They're from West Palm Beach, Florida. They were from West Palm Beach County, Florida. A band called Cyst. They were defunct, but they do little reunions down then. And it's from their album called, CD called Concussion Symphony. And it's songs Curse the Fates. Hopefully you like it. I like to mix it up now and then. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.
Contemplate